Masato is an ugly, lonely gamer with raging mommy issues who was trapped in a video game with his idiot mom. However, she turned out to be the reverse wingman who clapped all his enemies for him. But before this, Masato fills out a survey about his relationship with his mom. And from his answers, you'd know that, just like you, he doesn't really like her. Some moments later, a lady named Shurase appears to inform him that based on the survey, he will now begin a new life, but he wonders what the crap she is talking about. She tells him he would be entering a video game world, and before he can say anything, Shurase hits the enter button on the computer, causing a bright light to shine from the screen, and he immediately gets sucked into the screen. He becomes excited as he gets transported through a portal, thinking he will be away from his unbearable mother for a while. However, upon arriving in the game world, his mom Mamako also appears with her bags, making him unhappy just like every stupid teenager who thinks they can do without their mommies. Following this, they head to the Master of Teleportation Palace to meet the king, who registers them and briefs them on all they need to know about the game world. Meanwhile, Mamako doesn't know shit about games and asks a silly question even a dimwit should know, shocking the king and Masato, who never knew his mom was that stupid. The king then gives her a guidebook to read and tells them it's time to begin the next event. However, Masato says they are not discussing the most important thing, and he demands to know why his mom is here too. The king replies that his question is deeply intertwined with the purpose of the game, and that if he tells him, the GMs will force him to do their bidding. So he concludes that it would be best if Masato realizes it naturally through the course of his journeys. Following that, the king takes them to a secret chamber to show them some weapons that would help them on their quests during the game. He then tells Masato to pick one of the weapons, and he immediately goes to draw a blue holy sword called Firmament out of the rock. The king tells him that only a hero can hold a holy sword and remarks that he is indeed a true hero. He starts to feel like a badass, but his jaw hits the ground, together with the king, when Mamako casually walks to the rock and draws the two remaining swords. They head to the tutorial battle next in preparation for the real events of the game. They are faced with a couple of fierce monsters, and Mamako launches an attack first, which releases some fireballs that capture the monsters. More monsters appear immediately, and she unleashes the power of the second sword, called Altura, which forms ocean balls that instantly rain down attacks upon the monsters. She then tells Masato to try his sword too, so he eagerly draws it and makes a slash to activate its power. But the idiot is too weak and only manages to isekai a small bird. Mamako celebrates her little boy's weakness, but he falls to the ground feeling terrible. She immediately comes to ask him what's wrong, and out of jealousy, he asks her why she was the one who got the two-hit multi-target attacks for her basic attack skill, compared to his own lame attack skill. She tries to make him feel good like mothers do even though they know their children are pretty much worthless. But Masato isn't buying her crap. She tells him to get on his feet so they can move on to the next adventure, but he tells her to go without him since she is obviously more powerful. She feels bad and tells him the guidebook states that for basic attack skill gives her two-hit multi-target attacks. Her child will be really happy and will love to go on adventures with her. However, Masato tells her he doesn't buy the whole idea of being in the game with her and asks her why she came along, but she replies that she was told not to talk about it. He becomes pissed and threatens to disown her if she doesn't start talking, which makes her begin to cry immediately as she tells him she is not keeping it from him to hurt him. She adds that she wants to go on adventures with him and do a bunch of other things so they can be close as mother and son. Masato immediately feels bad and kowtows before her to apologize for spitting the trash he said earlier, and he tells her she can come along with him all she wants. Following that, they head to the kingdom of Mammalia, and as they walk across the busy city, Mamako brings out the guidebook from in between her huge plot, surprising the PG-18 uncertified boy beside her. They come across the Adventurers Guild where they plan to gather people for their party. They notice that the people there seem pretty rough, and while Masato feels he can take this on, his mother unleashes her weapon and wreaks damage on the building to show them that they are to be taken seriously. Masato fears that they might have isekai'd a player and would be punished for it. However, a wounded lady with red juice secreting from her head appears and introduces herself as Shirirasa. She welcomes them to the guild and tells them not to be worried as she is just an in-game object and not a real player, hence they won't be punished. After that, they consider 3 girls who would join their party, and Mamako tells Masato she will take it as he is trying to choose a girlfriend, and she will interview them as his mother, shocking him. They soon begin interviewing the 3 girls, but Mamako rejects all of them because they are rogue and ugly. Then, a young girl comes who introduces herself as Porta. They ask her for her CV, and she reveals that she is a walking coupon and has a merchant-only special bag that gives her party storage where she can store 300 items, no matter the size. She further states that she has skills that let her appraise or create items. However, she registered as a non-combat class, so she can't fight. Hearing all her qualities, they decide to accept her into the party, making her excited. Following that, they wonder who to interview next, and Masato comes across the application of a girl named Wise, a sage who can use magic. However, he sees a note she left on her application, which states that she will unalive them if they don't accept her, and he thinks this girl must be a tyrant, so he decides not to accept her. He squeezes the application letter and attempts to thrash it, but it comes back flying to his table straightened out. He tries to ditch it again, and the same thing happens, making him pissed. So he puts it on the ground and attempts to destroy it with his foot, but a bright light suddenly shines from the letter, and Wise emerges from it, shocking Masato, who realizes that she had initially transformed into paper using magic. Wise gets angry and immediately summons a magic book and activates a magic circle beneath him that sends him to an unknown field space instantly. As Masato tries to raise his head, she marches on his face, but Bro doesn't mind since he gets to see the color of her plot armor anyway, so it's a win-win. He asks her if she transformed into paper to surprise them since she wanted to join his party so badly and was doing everything she could, making her embarrassed. He then tells her to come sit beside him for an interview. Meanwhile, Mamako and Porta meet Shiraase, who apologizes for not being able to locate Masato, making her sad that she might not see him again. Masato and Wise share what they know about the game, and he reveals that he doesn't yet know why his mother had to come with him into the game world. She offers to tell him and reveals that the purpose of the game is to help parents and children get closer, which is why they brought every test player in pairs and asked them to go on adventures together. She then adds that although she doesn't know how the game was made, she knows a player can't return to their world unless they fulfill the win condition of the game, which is to become close to their moms. At the same time, Shiraase tells Mamako that since the most important part of the game is the relationship between mother and child, she should use the bond between her and Masato to speak to Mother Earth, which should help her find her son. Wise tells Masato she also came here with her mother, but they separated after they had a clash, and ever since then, she has been alone and trapped in the game world. Masato asks if she is trying to clear the game and return to her world, and she confirms it but says she plans to be Mamako's kid, too, to make this possible. Meanwhile, on the other side, Mamako summons the power of Mother Earth, immediately causing a rumble at Masato's location and throwing them off to where she is. Following that, Wise is thrown in jail for stepping on Masato's face earlier since it's a violation against one of the players. However, Mamako tells her she was told what her plan is and informs her she can't make her daughter because her face is ugly and she has a disgusting attitude. But Mamako adds that she is welcome to join the party. Masato explains that his mother intends to get her out of jail and amend Wise's relationship with her mother if they run into her on their travels. However, Wise doesn't agree with this and would rather destroy the world than reconcile with her useless mother, who abandoned her. Masato tells her they need to be on the team, and feeling that she is not worthless after all, she accepts to join the party. Afterward, they head to a dungeon, and while they observe the pit hole, they accidentally fall into it and become trapped. They all begin to panic since they can't see each other, and their powers are pretty useless to save them. But Mamako cheers them up, and suddenly she glows, creating a lighting for them to see themselves. Seeing this, Porta tells her she has activated a skill called Mother's Light. Following this, they head further into the dungeon and soon come across a horde of slimes. Wise immediately attempts to use her magic, but the slimes unleash a counterattack that instantly seals her magic. Seeing this, Mamako activates her sword, creating spikes that eliminate the monsters at once, turning them into gemstones. She immediately levels up, and Porta goes to pick up the stones. However, while she does, other slimes gush in and join together to form a giant slime. Wise tries to cast her magic spells again, but instantly gets sealed again, and the giant slime shoots slimy, sticky liquids at them. Masato quickly jumps in to save his mom from the slimy attacks, but he is too late. The slimy liquid touches Mamako, and immediately starts to melt away her plot armor, exhibiting her banging body. Masato, already in a sus position with her, immediately takes advantage, dipping his face repeatedly in between her melons as he tries to stand up, thanks to the slippery liquid. He manages to roll away before climaxing on his mom, and just then, the slime shoots another sticky juice on her, revealing all her plot in 4K. However, Wise manages to unseal her magic and immediately casts another spell. However, it doesn't affect the slime, making Masato regret ever taking this useless fool, wrongly named Wise, on the team. He immediately grabs his sword and attempts to attack, but Mamako steps forward, seeking to get revenge on the monster for revealing her plot in front of her son. She unleashes a powerful attack that activates spikes around the giant slime and isekais it instantly. The slime turns into a huge gemstone, and a coffin appears on it. They discover someone is inside, and Wise immediately uses her magic to revive her. The nun then introduces herself and gives them a quest, which requires them to head to a village called Mammon. On reaching the village, they walk through a market, and Masato suggests getting some equipment needed for their adventure, but his silly mother thinks they came for cooking ingredients. Afterward, Mamako prepares a very delicious meal for them, and after that they head to the equipment shop to get armor and gear for their quest. Meanwhile, Mama tries out a series of armors, but Masato doesn't like them and tells her to change because they are too sus, and he doesn't want his bone rising while looking at his mom. After a while, Masato and Wise wait for the other two, having gotten their own equipment, and by the time Mamako appears, she comes with a bag of clothes, surprising Masato, and she tells him that she got lots of clothes for everybody. This gets him angry, and he tells her she is being a pain in the ass with this silly attitude she's been putting up since they came into the game world. Mamako feels bad and tries to apologize, but the idiot continues to rant like a jerk. Wise cautions him, and he immediately realizes that he has hurt his mother again, making him feel remorse. However, he goes to her knees and tells him to come and lay his head on her thighs so she can tickle his ear for him. Masato feels reluctant, so his grown ass won't be regarded as mommy's boy before the girls, but Wise pushes him to do it, and he calmly lays on Mamako's legs as they reconcile together. Afterward, they meet the mayor of the village, who informs them that a demon called the Empress of Night recently appeared in the village and began to oppress them. She demanded that they bring the hottest kick-it Chad in the village who can develop plot with her all day without getting tired. Upon hearing this, Wise becomes pissed, but the mayor goes on to say that the sacrifice is to be handed over later that night. However, just when they were lost and didn't know what to do since all the men in the village are miserable and out of shape, Masato and his party arrive just in time. Masato immediately realizes that the disgusting mayor is planning to offer him to the Empress of Night. However, he agrees to play along so they can get to her. Following that, while Masato bathes in the hot spring, his mother suddenly appears too, with no plot armor, surprising him. He wonders what she is doing, but she grabs him and stuffs his head between her pillows to allow the other girls get into the bath when he is not looking. They soon get talking about the new threat they will be facing and wonder what the Empress of Night looks like since they have no information about her. However, Wise suddenly lists some of her qualities and powers, surprising them and leaving them wondering how she knows so much information about her. Wise almost reflexively responds that the Empress of Night is her mother, but she quickly closes her mouth and makes up an obvious lie that even a fool would easily detect. Masato tells her to stop the cap, pissing her off, so she stands up from the water to caution him, forgetting that her small melons are exposed. She immediately realizes she has just screwed up, but tries to maintain her cool, pretending not to be bothered about it, but she bursts into tears and leaves, feeling embarrassed. Meanwhile, Shiraase faces the Empress of Night and tells her actions are not according to what the game developer intended, so they will have to erase her from the system. However, Shiraase couldn't erase her, because the Empress had already put a countermeasure in place to keep her from getting wiped. She casts a spell that throws the nun off, and after that, prepares to end her for good by unleashing a brutal attack. But before she does, Shiraase informs her about her daughter. Wise, however, the Empress doesn't give a crap about her daughter, saying she is just a waste of space anyway, and then she deals a final blow to the nun, unaliving her instantly with a branch piercing through her chest. Meanwhile, Wise opens up about the Empress of Night being her mother and how she abandoned her to spend all her money at host clubs. She adds that she doesn't want to reconcile with her, and even when Port and Masato try to persuade her, she tells them it's never going to happen as it is over between them. Meanwhile, Mamako walks up to her and tells her that it's never over between a parent and child. She adds that the connection between parent and child is strong and cannot be broken. Wise disagrees, saying her family will never be like hers, but Mamako suddenly embraces her and tells her to compare this to her mother's hug. She immediately realizes that it's not like her mom's, making her discover that there is a part of her that still longs for her useless mom anyway. So Masato tells her that their mission is to make her mom remember the bond between a mother and her child. Following that, they meet Shiraase dead on a tree, and Wise revives her. But before she can give them any information about the Empress, she dies again, since the branch that isekai'd her is still in her chest. However, they revive her again, and she reveals that the Empress of Night's real name is Kazuno, a player who's gone out of control and started pursuing her own hobbies. She adds that Kazuno has managed to save an immense amount of SP so she can use the cast cancel spell that disallows any other spell from working after hers has been cast. Shiraas also informs them that Kazuno is able to use an invisible defensive mechanism that is not in the game, which Masato immediately identifies as a cheat. She lists some other things she is capable of and explains that illegal actions like this are harshly penalized, and the fine could stretch into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, shocking Wise, who wonders where her broke-ass mother would get that kind of money. Masato asks if they can still do something about this, and Shiraase replies that if they can bring the situation to a heartwarming conclusion, such that it makes Wise and Kazuno closer without breaking the rules of the game, then she might be able to offer some assistance in waiving the fine. After some petty talks, Shirase opens a portal immediately that summons Kazuno to their location, but as soon as she appears, she activates a spell that releases larvae to the whole forest. However, Wise immediately counters it by activating a magic spell that rains ice on the larva, cooling it. Kazuno starts to control the forest to attack them, and Mamako immediately summons the powers of her two-hit multi-target swords that instantly counter it. Masato instructs Porta to stay with his mom, and just as he tries to call Shirase, he realizes that the useless nun has been isekai'd again. After a while, Kazuno casts her spell and shuts them inside her secret room so they don't have to escape. She tells them that in this room, she can create anything she wants, and she immediately summons different animals to show them she isn't capping. She tells them she can control the CIA with this and steal the country's top secret documents, prompting Wise to tell her that she is going too far already. However, Kazuno tells her to shut the heck up, saying she had wished the game would fix things between them until Wise decided to misbehave. Wise immediately recalls how arrogant she acted toward her mother and feels remorseful. But Kazuno tells her she regrets giving birth to a worthless child like her and goes on to state that children are not worth having as all they do is rob their parents of peace and freedom. Wise feels bad and apologizes, but Kazuno says it's too late and strikes her to the ground with one of her animal weapons. Masato thinks this is being too cruel of a lady who calls herself a mother, and he begs her to forgive her daughter. But Kazuno doesn't want peace. She immediately activates a lightning attack and sends it at him, which he manages to hold off with his sword. The attack soon becomes overwhelming, but Mamako suddenly destroys the secret room with her glowing sword, returning the environment to the forest. Mamako then goes on to give the best motivational speech ever spoken about motherhood. She tells Kazuna she will do whatever it takes to make her remember the bond between a mother and her child for Wise's sake. However, Kazuna thinks this is not a wise saying and boasts that she doesn't need her daughter anymore since she now has the power to make everything go her way. Mamako then tells her she will destroy the power she is so proud of with the one she has ignored. She calls Masato, and he immediately gets into position to assist her. He apologizes for being selfish all along and tells her he is glad that she is his mother, making her leak some salty water from her eyes. Mamako immediately unleashes a myriad of attacks with her sword, but Kazuno blocks all by forming a force barrier. But she is surprised when one of the attacks escapes her defense and cuts her cheek. Mamako sends more attacks, but Kazuno continues to parry them with her impenetrable barrier. Meanwhile, Porta grabs a magic ball and passes it to Masato, asking him to throw it at the barrier, and after doing that, Kazuno's magic becomes sealed. She manages to send her animal weapons to them, but Mamako destroys them with one slash of her sword. Seeing that her mother is now defenseless, Wise instantly activates a spell that scatters her and the stupid men serving as her furniture, knocking her to the ground. She then tells her mom to give up already, but she refuses and immediately summons wings to fly. However, Masato quickly sends an attack, slashing one wing, and Mamako follows with another attack, cutting the second wing and knocking her to the ground into Wise's arms. The two reconcile but soon start quarreling again, making the other wonder if they are really family. The next day, they set out again, and Wise chooses to continue adventuring with them even though she has reconciled with her mom and can return to the real world. As they walk on, a screen suddenly appears before them by which Shirase tells them the destination for their next quest, and they head toward there immediately. On their way, they encounter some dangerous beasts, but just while they prepare to fight them, Mamako unleashes her sword's powers and isekais them all in an instant. making Masato and Wise begin to question the reason for their existence, when they are basically as good as useless on the team because Mamako takes all the glory. Masato reasons that he will never be stronger than his mom if he keeps fighting normal battles, and he desires if there were a quest to make them stronger. As he thinks about this, an aircraft flies above them and starts pouring out some flyers. He grabs one of them as he wonders what this is, and he discovers that it's a flyer seeking adventurers for a quest in an academy. Mamako sees him looking at this and suggests he enroll in the academy if he wants to experience what it's like. He immediately becomes pumped as he is eager to enroll, and they head to the academy immediately. Upon reaching the academy, Masato and others check the flyer again, and he realizes that they could get a ton of SP points just by becoming students at the school. They also discover that there are items on the flyer that seem to be exactly what they need to boost their respective skills, and this makes them excited, but Masato reasons this can't be a coincidence. Ford asks Masato if it's okay how he left his mother behind, and he replies that there was no way he was going to bring his mom to the academy anyway. He accidentally bumps into a girl named Medi, who he considers the prettiest girl he's ever met in his life. He immediately helps her up, but before he can use the useless pickup line he's waited his whole life to use, Medi's mom, Metamama, appears and starts ranting about her daughter's achievement until they both leave together. However, Masato thinks he is about to have the best time of his life in the school since he has already met a cute girl like that. Following that, an ugly old man introduces them to the class, which contains some ugly round-headed students who are not completely developed. Medi also comes in to introduce herself, and upon seeing him again, she tells him she is happy to end up in the same class with him, making the idiot excited thinking his lonely ass just bagged a girl. However, her mother appears again and warns him not to try to get closer to her daughter. The class begins shortly after, and the teacher begins to ask questions, of which Medi answers the first and gets 10 SP points as a reward. The teacher asks the second, and while Masato attempts to raise his hand, Metamama hinders him, causing Medi to answer again and win 10 more points. He asks the next question, and when Wise stands up to answer, she suddenly becomes dizzy and falls asleep. The whole class falls asleep except Masato, who realizes that Metamama is responsible for this, so as to prevent anyone from outshining her daughter. However, she is surprised that he is not feeling sleepy, and the idiot reveals that he's got plot armor, so she intensifies her spell, which immediately makes him dizzy. Later, after the class, while Masato and friends discuss the atrocity caused by Metamama, it is told that a hot girl is looking for him, so thinking it's Medi, he immediately heads out to meet, but he is disappointed when he realizes it's his mom. A few moments later, Shires appears and tells them that the school was quickly constructed to ward off overbearing parents who complained in the game that there was no place for children to learn. Masato immediately realizes that the items on the flyer were intended to lure them into the school, and Shires tells him that their job is to handle problems between parents and children that the GMs cannot. But Masato disagrees. However, Shires says they don't have a choice and have to sort out the current problem in the school, because the school has many bugs that need investigation since it was built extremely quickly. She then shows them one of the bugs she is talking about by walking through a tree and dying immediately as soon as she comes out of it. Following that, the next period of the class begins and Mamako joins the class too, shocking Masato, who doesn't want to lose face before his crush, so he protests against it. However, Mamako pleads with the teacher and allows her to stay. The class session resumes with the teacher asking more questions. Metamama attempts to cast her sleeping spell on the class again, but it instantly gets annulled by Mamako's mother's shearing skill, which she unconsciously activated. After that, the teacher asks another question, and Mamako raises her hand, leaving Masako wondering what the heck she is doing. He tries to protest against this, but the teacher grants her audience because she is wearing the uniform, and for each answer Mamako answers, she gets 30 points instead of 10. The quiz ends with Mamako topping the class while Medi takes the second place, making her mother angry. Masato feels terrible again that his mother took the spotlight again. The next day, Masato quickly leaves home for school before his mom is ready because an alpha male shouldn't be seen going to school with mommy. While he runs, Medi catches up with him, and as they talk, he asks her if they could study the science behind the clapping sound that occurs during an intense workout. She agrees immediately, making him excited that he might be on his way to getting cultured. However, his mom spoils the show when she suddenly knocks him to the ground with one of her spikes so she can catch up. Metamama soon meets them too, and she is prepared to ensure that Mamako doesn't steal the spotlight today like she did the previous day. Meanwhile, as they talk, Masato suddenly hears a faint voice cussing at Metamama, and he wonders what it is as Medi excitedly leaves with her mom. At school, the teacher announces that the class today will be on item creation, which they will practice by cooking. Porta manages to make something great from her eggs because she has the craft skill, but Wise and Masato manage to produce something as horrible as their faces. Meanwhile, the teacher sees Medi's cooking skills and awards her 10 points for doing such an incredible thing, even though she is a combat class player. Masato is proud of his crush, but Wise calls his attention to Metamama, who is casting magic and illusion magic, telling him that she is pretty sure Medi is cooking crap like them too. He disagrees and grabs a spoon to go have a taste, only to end up regretting it. Mameko starts to cook too, and she gives Masato the taste, but he refuses it by telling her it is too hot. However, she blows at it to reduce the hotness and gives him the taste again, which he reluctantly agrees to. He suddenly levels up on his item creation success rate, surprising him, and the teacher explains that it must be this special mother's skill called Mother's Breath. Hearing this, Porta and Wise immediately beg Mameko to give them the Mother's Breath too, and she does, immediately also boosting their item creation success rate. The three then go on to make something excellent with their food materials, surprising the whole class, and the teacher rewards them with 20 points each for it. However, this makes Metamama really mad. Later in the afternoon, they prepare for a swimming class, with everyone appearing in their various swimsuits. But Masato feels terrible that he will be seeing his mom in a revealing swimsuit, and as soon as she appears, all the boys in the class are drawn to her, making Masato think that this is the worst experience of his life, so he jumps into the pool feeling sad. He is soon brought out of the pool, and as Mameko cares for him, Metamama continues to be angry that Mameko stole everyone's attention earlier, but Medi thinks that this only serves her wretched mother right. Masato hears this, and thinking it was Wise who said that, he tells her that was too mean. But the girl doesn't know that Heki is talking about. The swimming class soon begins, and the students are tasked with isekaiing the monsters in the pool. Medi isekais the first monster and everyone celebrates her, so Masato goes underwater to look for a monster too, with his mother cheering him on. He comes across a giant octopus and eliminates it in one slash. The challenge continues and Masato competes with Medi in isekaiing a particular monster fish. As they swim toward the fish, Mameko encourages Masato and cheers for him, making him determined to win. But on the other hand, Metamama only cusses at her, telling her to ensure she wins or she will be rebuked. Medi suddenly loses motivation and stops as she begins to resent her mother, surprising Masato, who also stops to find out what happened. However, a giant sea anemone suddenly appears out of the pool and grabs Mameko. The cultured monster starts to feel up her plot, causing Mameko to make some happy noises, but Porta quickly gives her a sword, and she slices the monster's legs in pieces, freeing herself. Seeing this, Masato grabs his sword and charges at the monster's remnant, isekaiing it instantly. Afterward, Masato is declared the winner of the challenge, and while Mameko celebrates him, Metamama slaps and rebukes Medi, instead because she couldn't win. Afterward, Medi heads out to a secluded place to vent her anger, and Masato and Mameko, noticing that she has been acting weird all along, follow her. Following that, Masato develops shower plot with the girls, and while at it, he tells them he is concerned about Medi and her mom, but Wise tells him it's not their business, so they should not get involved. However, he explains that he knows how it feels to have problems with one's mother and not know what to do. He further expresses his willingness to help and tells them he needs their help on this, and they agree to help. The next day at the academy, the teacher announces the upcoming school festival. But Masato thinks this is ridiculous since it's impromptu and the class was not properly pre-informed. The teacher tells him that this is what makes it spectacular. He also adds that the festival will include a pop quiz where the students will form different groups and come up with anything they want and will be awarded points based on their performance. After that, he tells them their parents are allowed to participate, immediately making Masato sad that it seems he can't ever be separated from his mom. Mameko immediately suggests they do a little cafe for the school festival, as she is confident that she can cook something good. When Metamama hears this, she immediately declares that she and her daughter will do the same thing, and whoever sells more food wins, surprising Mameko, who never planned to compete. The school festival came, and both parties started to prepare food for customers. However, all the students flood Mameko's cafe, which gets Metamama angry when she realizes no customer wants her food. Metamama tells Medi to change into her swimsuit to lure all the boys to the shop, and while she hesitates a little, she tears her uniform, exposing her plot. Meanwhile, Lucky Masato appears just in time and sees her plot in HD. He apologizes for coming at the wrong time. He then says he only came to check how Medi was enjoying her festival, but he is ready to face any punishment. Metamama activates her magic and unalives him instantly. However, when she thinks he is dead, his skill levels up from dead form to spirit form due to the multiple instant death attacks he has received. His spirit starts to float around the room, and he observes as Metamama tells Medi to seduce him when he is revived, so she can find a way to penetrate him and ruin his mom's shop. Medi feels reluctant, but her mother forces her to do it anyway, saying they have to win by whatever means. A while later, Medi starts to act sus around Masato, but he doesn't fall for her crap, since he already knows what she's trying to do. He soon calls her out and lets her know he is aware of her gimmicks, immediately making her feel bad. However, Metamama appears before he can preach to her. Masato begs her mom to stop forcing her to do what she doesn't want to do, but she doesn't listen and says her daughter has to be number one. Masato tells her it's obvious who the winner is already, but she challenges him to a beauty contest, saying they will find out which shop has the hottest waitresses. The beauty contest soon begins, and even though Medi flops on the stage, all boys hail her because she is the most beautiful girl in the school, and she gets 90 points. However, Wise goes up next to present, but no one except Porta hails her because she's just an ugly, disgusting asshole who no one cares about. The host calls for more entrants, but no one comes up. However, Mameko appears just in time with a pot of food so that Wise can heat it with her fire magic. After heating the food, she realizes she could just take the stage and use the opportunity to market her food. So she walks to the stage and announces that the food is ready, immediately causing an uproar from the students, which beats the scale of measurement, making her the winner of the beauty contest. Metamama becomes furious, but before she can vent it on Medi, Masato grabs her hands and runs off, dragging her along while Wise and Porta also run after them. He later tells her he knew what was coming next, so he decided to take her away. Wise asks her how long she wants to keep being her mother's slave and not do what she wants. They encourage her to exercise her will, but she replies that she has no friends and can only be with her mother. Masato and the other two immediately tell her that they are her friends and will be there for her, making her burst into tears that she has finally made some friends after a long life of misery and boredom. She soon starts to laugh with them, but her mom suddenly jumps at her and pins her to the tree by holding her neck, asking her what the heck she is doing with those losers. Medi replies that they are her new friends, but her mom cuts in and tells her she doesn't need any friends and only needs to be number one in everything. She immediately activates her magic and attempts to strike her, but Mameko intercepts and blocks it. Mameko tells her she is being too hard on her daughter, but Metamama replies that Medi has to be the number one so she can take pride in being called the number one's mother. Hearing this, Medi realizes that her mom has only been after her selfish interests all along and goes berserk immediately, activating all her powers and transforming into an A-rank demon. Medi starts destroying everything around her, making Masato wonder if this is his crush or something. Metamama becomes angry and activates her magic staff, intending to strike Masato for causing this, but Mameko quickly blocks her attack. She tells Masato and others to face Medi while she handles this ugly bitch. Metamama immediately activates a spell and forms 3 golems from the earth, but as they approach Mameko to attack her, her sword, which allows her to control the earth, glows, and she calmly tells the golems to excuse her while she talks with Metamama, immediately disintegrating them. Metamama is shocked and wonders how Mameko did this because this was her best attack. Mameko replies that she just calmly asks them to obey her, which will be her lecture for the day. She begins to give a lecture on parenting. Meanwhile, while Wise casts her spell to fight Medi, she suddenly exhausts her MP, making her unable to continue. Medi almost hits her off with her tail, but Masato saves her stupid face just in time with his magic shield. He then tells Porta to give her several MP potions so she can refill her MP while he engages the demon. Meanwhile, during Mameko's long, boring lecture, she suddenly begins to glow and suspend in the air, making the other realize that the skill Mother's Light has activated. However, the light shines so bright, and her words become more pronounced and powerful, which Porta immediately dubs as the higher level of the Mother's Light, known as the Mother's Words, which uses the combined power of every mother across the world and allows her to speak on their behalf. After hearing all this, Metamama feels bad as she realizes that she has been a terrible mother, and Mameko walks up to her to pat her. She suddenly realizes that her daughter is in a bad state now and immediately runs to the scene where she is battling with Masato. Medi hits Masato off with her tail, and while her mother starts to talk too, she gets pissed and knocks her away with her tail too. However, Mama accepts it's all her fault and stands fearlessly before her daughter, hoping to show she has repented. But Medi isn't buying all her good mother facade and almost knocks her to the ground again. But Masato quickly blocks it with his shield. He tells Wise to launch her attacks, but while she attempts to, Medi immediately gathers earth from the ground and forms a protective shell around herself. This makes Masato discouraged as there's nothing else they can do to reach her. But Mamako immediately enters the scene and launches several attacks with her 2-hit multi-target attacks, breaking shells. Seeing this, Masato realizes that his weak ass will never be as powerful as his mother, and then he immediately jumps into the air while unleashing a powerful attack at the demon, which immediately causes the crystal on Medi's staff to crack, instantly isekaiing the demon. Medi's human form falls to the ground, and Mama quickly goes to carry her. Afterward, Mama and Medi reconcile back together, and Mama apologizes for being a terrible mother who never cared about her, well, even though all she wanted was to be a great mother to her. Meanwhile, Masato tells them she must have been under the influence of her staff. Later, they hold a small party, and Masato walks up to the newly reconciled family members to ask them to join his party. However, Mama declines the offer, saying she plans to log out of the game so she can clear the dark legacy she has left behind for other mothers out there. But she tells him Medi might be willing to join. Medi immediately shows her interest in joining the party so she can be closer to him and have him explore the dungeon between her legs as the true adventurer that he is. However, he wonders if she will be able to stay in the game since her mother is logging out. But Shirase suddenly appears and states it's something they can overlook, just like they did for Wise. A few days later, while Mamako takes a survey concerning the game, a horde of monsters appears, and as they approach them, Masato thinks it's time to take the spotlight a little since his mother is busy. But before he and the rest of the party can deal any damage, Mamako notices and unleashes a powerful attack with her overpowered weapon, isekaiing the monsters all at once. This makes the others feel pretty useless in the party since Mamako just eliminates the monsters with one-hit attacks every time. Masato reasons that they need to find a way to become stronger than his mom, and suddenly a flyer drops right in front of him, which informs him that a new tower dungeon is now open, and anyone who completes it will be granted any wish they desire. They head to the tower immediately and meet some women who complain about their missing sons, who entered the dungeon has not returned since then. They become confused, and while they wonder what is happening, they see Shirase's corpse and immediately carry it to a secluded place to revive her and ask her about the whole thing. She takes them into the dungeon and tells them that they can't clear the dungeon alone and would need to work with other players. They soon reach a particular floor and meet an idiot with a loose mouth. She introduces herself as Amanti, one of the 4 fiends of the rebel group named Rebele, and the betrayer of mothers. She reveals that the rebel group contains kids who have rebelled against their mothers, and further says that all the adventurers in town have already joined her group. However, when Mamako introduces herself, she becomes scared and starts to run because she is scared of her, but she suddenly slips and falls off the stairs. Some simps immediately come to carry her away, and as she leaves, she tells Masato and the others that they will clear the dungeon before them. Afterward, Shirase tells them to head out of the dungeon as they have gotten all the information they need. On getting outside, she tells them this is an unforeseen event within the game and explains that the group of idiots they saw earlier are the missing sons the mothers were complaining about. She adds that they must have left their mothers to join the rebel group, and the one behind all this is Amante. The kids have left their mothers so they can clear the dungeon and have their wishes granted. Hearing this, the party decides to stop the evil and get the kids back to their mothers. But to carry this out, they first have to form a guild and recruit other members. So Shirase takes them to an abandoned building to use as the HQ of their guild. The next day, they split into 2 groups. One group to clean the disgusting apartment, while the other group goes shopping for crafting materials, so they can renovate the building. Masato, Medi, and Porta head to the store, and while they buy the necessary materials, they meet the loose-mouthed girl who also came to shop at the store. Upon seeing them, she reveals the secret that assassins have been sent to their base, because she can't just keep her mouth shut. But they don't take her seriously since Mamako is overpowered, and it's something she can handle alone anyway. However, she tells them they will regret it if they underestimate Rebele. Then suddenly, Wise appears using her teleportation magic and informs them that Mamako is in a bad situation, shocking them. Masato immediately heads out of the store as he thinks about his mother. Wise teleports them back to the base, and on opening the door to the building, they are shocked to see some useless salesman in a hoodie trying to sell a crystal ball to Mamako. Masato wonders if this is the emergency Wise was talking about. The salesman tells Mamako that getting the crystal ball will make her son happy since he will give him the 2-hit multi-target weapons. On hearing this, Mamako quickly tries to pay, but Masato approaches them and tells his mom not to fall for this shady deal. However, Porta appraises the crystal ball and suddenly declares that it is a powerful bomb that can destroy the entire guild, shocking them. They begin to panic as the ball starts to make sounds, which shows it is about to explode. And while they wonder what to do, Mamako innocently grabs the ticking bomb and begins to pat it like a baby. They all become shocked and advise her that she shouldn't be doing that to a bomb, but she replies that it sounds just like a baby and that maybe patting its head will calm it down. Masato wonders how his mother can be so stupid, but he is shocked when the bomb suddenly becomes calm, and Porta explains that this is another skill called the mother's head pat. Following this, they head to the field to eat together, and while they discuss the occurrence with the assassin, Amante appears and tells them she came to check after waiting for the bomb to explode, and it didn't. Mamako tries talking her into letting the children with her return to their moms, but she becomes scared as she approaches her and runs off while foolishly telling them that her next assassin is already on his way. Then, they suddenly hear an explosion from their base. They return home immediately only to find that a part of the building has been wrecked, and just while they consider the extent of the damage, 3 hoodlums led by Pochi appear, telling them that they have planted bombs even 10 times as powerful all across the city. They then say that if they don't want to see the city in flames, Mamako must serve them as a maid and do whatever they demand. Firstly, they demand she cook for them, and she makes a very delicious meal that makes them think about their moms. Afterward, Pochi lies on the bed and demands that Mamako give him a bed service, making Masato uncomfortable. However, Mamako agrees, but as she sits beside him, she begins to pat the idiot, making him remember when his mom used to do the same when he used to have trouble sleeping. He soon sleeps off, surprising the other 2. They join 2 and soon sleep off also. When they wake up, they apologize for causing trouble and promise to remove all the bombs around the city. And then Mamako tells them to go home and make their moms feel better. The next day, a couple of moms visit the base to appreciate the party for sending their sons back home, and they volunteer to join the guild in clearing the tower dungeon. The mothers follow the party later that day to the dungeon, but Masato still finds it weird that the guild is full of grown-ass mothers who know nothing about adventuring. He wishes that the 3 guys also joined, but they told him that they had something to attend to. Meanwhile, Amante sees the guild and thinks that they are just a bunch of idiots she shouldn't normally care about. But because Mamako is with them, she decides to prepare bombs within the tower. However, she mistakenly steps on one of the balls and falls, instantly activating all the bombs. But before she can make any remedy, they all explode in her stupid face. Masato and his team, with a group of old fatsos, enter the dungeon and are surprised when they see that a part has exploded. How they climb the rubbles to the next floor, not knowing that Amante is stuck inside the rubbles. She manages to get out after they leave and immediately steps on a warp tile to transport quickly to the next floor out of them. She prepares a trap on the 21st floor, which would cause anyone who raises a metal weapon to be struck by lightning. However, a monster suddenly appears, and in a bid to fight it, her silly ass raises her weapon, completely forgetting her trap, only to instantly get struck by lightning. Meanwhile, on the 20th floor, the mothers got tired, so they decided to rest for some time while Mamako prepared food for them. And after eating, Amante suddenly falls off the stairs to their floor. She asks why they are slow, revealing that she had set a trap for them and got hit by it while they delayed in their coming. Mamako tells her the mother has a lot to do, pissing her off as she doesn't like to hear that word. However, Mamako tells her they will get moving as soon as she is done washing the plates they used to eat. But Amante, not willing to wait, immediately challenges her to a washing competition. The competition soon begins, and Amante starts to rush her washing to show her she doesn't need a mother, since she can do all that a mother can do. However, Mamako just unleashes the power of her sword, and it produces water that washes all her plates instantly. Amante is shocked and thinks this is unfair, but the judges name Mamako the winner, saying the usage of any method is allowed. In the next round, they are required to wash a piece of cloth, and Amante goes the usual route again, but Mamako wins her again with her sword's help, which instantly functions as a washing machine. Amante feels ashamed and leaves, stating that this is not the end. After a few hours, the party reaches floor 81, and while they explore it, they see a warp tile and decide to step on it, which causes them to feel lighter instantly while transporting them to the next floor. They enjoy the refreshing feeling that comes with it. But Masato soon realizes that he is almost naked and just needs to use the warp tile one more time to be without plot armor. He sees others in panties too, and soon, Amante suddenly appears again, but she becomes ashamed as she realizes she is also only in panties. However, she calls out her army, which contains a group of monsters, and some of the mothers immediately recognize them as their sons. Amante reveals that a guide had tried to turn the others against her, so she gave them more befitting looks by transforming them into animals. However, Masato prepares to fight, but the mothers start to bet that they shouldn't hurt their sons, which Mameko agrees to. Amante immediately commands them to attack, but the horrible-looking set of idiots starts to cry for their mommies, annoying her, so she activates a crystal, which immediately fills them with hatred for their moms. Seeing this, Wise and Medi cast combined spells that activate a barricade around them. And then Mameko walks up to the mothers to tell them that this is happening because of the feeling of unhappiness within their sons toward them. She says they need to accept them with love, and then immediately activate a power that wears protective armor on their bodies to endure any attack from their children. All the mothers then go on to hug their sons despite their fierce attacks, and they all return to their ugly human forms. Following this, Pokchi reveals that the wish Amante wants to be granted after clearing the dungeon is to have all mothers erased from the world, shocking Masato. Masato and the others immediately get to their heels so they can stop Amante before she carries out her wish. But as they draw closer to the last floor, they fall into a trap, causing them to be thrown into different parts of the dungeon, separated from each other. Meanwhile, as Masato tries looking for the exit, he sees his mother, who tries to lure him away, but he discovers it's a trap and continues walking. He starts to see more representations of his mother calling, but he doesn't answer them. However, he soon turns around and sees several scary-looking versions of his mom, terrifying him, but the real Mameko comes to save him just in time. They soon rejoin with the others who also share that they had a similar experience. They get to the last floor and are shocked to discover that Amante defeated the final boss all alone. She starts to attack them, and despite all their efforts to counter her move, she overpowers them, knocking them to the wall. Medi immediately summons a Grim Reaper, but as it attempts to attack Amante, it suddenly stops and turns back toward them, splitting into four. However, they evade Masato and his mom and unalive Medi and Wise instantly, shocking Masato, who wonders what just happened. Porta explains that Wise and Medi's armors don't have a defense against status effects, so she quickly goes to revive them. Meanwhile, as Mameko tries to attack Amante, Masato stops and steps forward instead. However, Amante begins to tell him that his mother is the reason he hasn't been enjoying his adventure as he would love to, and if she were gone, he would have the freedom to do whatever he wants, making him speechless as though he is considering it. She accuses Mameko of being responsible for her son's frustration, but Masato cuts in and says that though all of that may be true, as he never expected to go on adventures with his mom and all of that, which makes him angry at times, he thinks that maybe this is what an adventure is meant to be like, and so he does not being with his mother. This makes Mameko proud, and then she asks Masato if she can have a few words with Amante, to which he agrees but tells her not to steal the spotlight too much this time. She moves closer and tells her she is upset and will scold her for all of this, but Amante thinks this is just one of her bullshits. However, Mameko activates a skill called Mother Says No, the ultimate explosion of maternal love, which unleashes an enormous blast of light at her, causing her pain. Meanwhile, Masato becomes sad that his mother is stealing the spotlight again. Amante is shocked that she couldn't resist her attack, but Mameko replies that it was just a scolding. Amante, seeing that she can't handle Mameko, immediately runs off to the wish room. But before she can make her wish, our stupid MC's intrusive thoughts get hold of him, and he mistakenly wishes for a crate of fresh eggs. Following this, Amante feels terrible that she couldn't achieve her plan and leaves, while Masato thinks his existence is the greatest mistake in anime history. Later that night, Amante heads out of the city and plans to talk to her other fiends so they can defeat Mameko. The next day, Shirase shows them a dark stone she had retrieved from Amante, which Medi immediately recognizes as similar to what was on her mom's staff. Shirase tells them that she will investigate it and gives them a new quest to defeat the four fiends of the rebel group Rebelle. Following that, they all set out of the city on their new quest. How challenging will this new quest be? If you love this recap and want the next part, comment game. Also, like this video and subscribe to our channel. And if you want another recap like this, watch this video right here.